All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem, Rakakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem, Rakakwadash, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah. And what I want to get into this morning, is dealing with, rehearsing, righteousness, man. Rehearsing righteousness, and it's leading to us being perfected. You see, we've begun the process, the hopeful elect. Lord will, we are of that number. Lord will, we was predestined, from the foundation of the earth, okay, to be those Israelites that's a part of that remnant that's going to receive mercy in these latter days, man. That's been chosen to follow the Lamb Yahweh Shai, okay, that's been chosen to conform unto Yahweh Shai in righteousness, man. Okay, so when you go to Proverbs 28 and 13, it says, people who conceal their sins will not prosper. Okay, so people who conceal their sins will not prosper, but if they confess and turn from them, they will receive mercy, man. And, coming into the truth is the beginning of our journey. A lot of Israelites, they come into this truth, and the fact that they know that they're Israelites, and they learn the law too, they think that's the end all be all, that they're good, that they're separated and allotted for salvation. Nah, man. Coming into this thing is just the beginning. It's a constant, okay? It's a constant process of us learning righteousness and applying it. Learning righteousness and applying it. There's growth, man. We have to constantly confess sin. Certain things that we do, that we don't even know is wrong. Okay, and we learn of it. We gotta confess that. Damn, off. I was tripping. And the more we mature, the more detail it gets. Okay, because the Lord requires more from us. All right, the longer we in this thing, the more the Lord requires. There's a certain behavior that the Lord requires, certain conduct. Okay, as we mature in this thing, whom much is given, much is required. So the Lord is constantly giving us understanding where He's requiring more when it comes to our conduct, when it comes to our behavior. He's requiring us to level up, man. Okay, because we're rehearsing the righteous acts, okay, and we're rehearsing to perfection, man. It's a process we're going through, okay. It said, verse 14, blessed are those who fear to do wrong, man. We have a fear to do wrong. There's a fear to do wrong, by one another, man. There's a fear to do wrong in general, man. Even people that's not in the truth, man, the fear of the Lord, still govern our behavior, in every situation, man. There's a fear of doing wrong. Like, we fear to do wrong. Okay, and that's the thing. It's not about being perfect in the law, because there's no way we can be perfect in the law, man. But there's a fear that we operate with, man. We fear to do wrong, okay, as we operate in this truth, man. As we live, there's a fear, okay, let's say, that governs our behavior, man. You see, and the elect develop a fear to do wrong, and that's a healthy fear, okay. It says, blessed are those who fear to do wrong, but the stubborn are headed for serious trouble, man. That stubborn mindset, okay, just stuck in certain ways, refuse to budge on certain, on certain conduct that's off, certain things that, okay, we just don't want to move. Oh, that's just me. And that's one of the dangerous things that we can say in the truth, okay. Now, we all have unique personalities, okay, unique character, you see, but not being willing to change and to make the statement, oh, that's just me. Oh, no, that's a dangerous statement. No, the Lord requires change, okay. If you find yourself having to keep making that statement, oh, that's just me, that's stubbornness, that's hard-headedness, man. Certain character flaws and characteristics we got, especially the ego of thinking we got it, and I'm justified in being like, no, no, no. We're justified in changing. Okay, we're adapting to Yahweh Shai. Yahweh Shai not adapting to us, man. Okay, and I'm saying that because I know, I can be stubborn. You see, and certain things that the Lord had to break up. You see, the Lord had to break certain things up, to make us see like, no, we gotta continue to make adjustments. Okay, and we gotta trust if the Lord is telling us to make the adjustment. We gotta trust, man. Okay, and it ain't gonna always feel good to the flesh, man. You see, but hey, the Lord is refining us for a far greater glory and a greater purpose that we can even fathom, man. Okay, so let's go from there because it's the Lord that puts the Spirit on us, to rehearse the righteous acts. And see, as we rehearse the righteous acts, we're rehearsing the kingdom. The way that we're treating each other as brothers, man, that's rehearsing how we're going to be in the kingdom. The way the Lord has structure and order, amongst the body. Well, it's going to be structure and order in the kingdom. Okay? The way you have particular women humbling down under those men, well, that's you women rehearsing for the kingdom. Okay? So we're rehearsing the righteous acts. We're rehearsing for the righteous kingdom that Yahweh Shai is getting ready to establish, man. Okay? So you go to the book of Judges, chapter 5. The book of Judges, chapter 5, verse 11. It says, they that are delivered from the noise of archers in the place of drawing water. The noise of archers are the nukes. Okay? And that's over here in America where, those missiles are going to come and destroy America. And then it said drawing water, which is a captivity. Because the truth began in America. The place of, future nuclear destruction. And the place of a harsh captivity that we, have had to serve as Israelites, man. Okay, and now spread out. The truth began here in America, man. The revival, okay, the spirit of Yahweh Shai amongst his people began in America. Now it's spread out, throughout the earth. That's why you have camps, everywhere. Okay, but it'll begin in the land of the noise of the archers and the place of drawing water. There shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord. Okay, so this is the circumstances. All right, the Lord will put us in to rehearse the righteous acts, man, the land of our captivity and the land of future judgment. Okay, and it says, there they shall rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord, even the righteous acts toward the inhabitants of the villages in Israel. And then shall the people of the Lord go down to the gates. Okay, so the Lord will raise up prophets in these last days. The scriptures say that will feed us with knowledge and understanding. Okay? And through that knowledge and understanding, we will learn the things that are pleasing unto our power, man. And the elect are beginning to treat each other because the elect is his own community, his own world within itself, man. Okay? Like his own village in the spirit within itself, man. Okay? And we're beginning to treat each other in a way that's pleasing to our power. That's us rehearsing the righteous acts, man. True brotherly love is beginning to flourish, okay, amongst a remnant. You see? And the Lord's giving us structures, going down to the gates. Because the gates will be what the place of the nobles. That's where the nobles sit. Okay? The elders. You see? So the Lord has established what? All right, gates in Israel again. Because the nobles and elders, they would scan the traffic, see what was coming in and out. Just like the apostles and the elders in the spirit there at the gates. And they're monitoring the doctrine. All right, they're monitoring the body, seeing what's going in and out. Because the elect is like a what? Like a village. Okay, like an isolated village in the spirit of Yahweh B'Shem Al Shai. You know, where we're rehearsing. It's a place where we're rehearsing the righteous acts, man, getting ready, okay, for the kingdom Yahweh Shai is getting ready to bring. Okay? So let's go from there. Let's get this and let's get this in the book of Philippians. Alright, this is the book of Philippians chapter 1 and verse 6. It says, being confident of this very thing, that he which hath begun a good work in you will perform it until the day of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. Okay? So as we were called into this truth, you know, and we're predestined where the Lord began a good work in us. You know, this word began to mold us, began to chip away at particular things, you know, through what this discipline. You see? That's why scriptures speak about how wisdom will try us, you know, by crooked ways, and then it will return the straight paths unto us, man. Okay? So as we come into this truth, man, wisdom begins to work with us where we at. Okay? And begin to make those adjustments. Okay? And then we begin to see the benefits of those adjustments. All right? Then she comes and returns with those straight ways. You know, she opens herself even more and gives us those straight paths, and that straight paths is leading to salvation. Okay, it's leading to be joint heirs, man. You know, so Yahweh Shai doing a mighty work in us, man. You read this in the NLT, Philippians 1 and 6 is, and I am certain that the Most High who began the good work within you will continue his work, okay, until it is finally finished on the day when Yahweh Shai HaMashiach returns, man. You know? So until we're changed, we're unfinished products, man. You know, we're perfection in the making. You know, and the Lord has put the Spirit on us to rehearse these righteous acts, man, to continue, all right, to strive and get better, man. It's all about growth and getting better, man. We all gonna fall short. We're gonna make mistakes, but it's the reaction to those mistakes. Okay? It's the reaction to those mistakes of getting better. Okay? So that's the point, you know, just wanted to get into that, you know, this morning, Lord will, you brothers, all right, and you few sisters edified once again. I'm gonna give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Kakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elder GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations to the whole Shalom.